He didn't just abandon his wife, he sold his soul for a corner office and a lie. On the same morning, Elena prepared breakfast to celebrate his promotion. Daniel walked in with divorce papers, his tie still scented with another woman's perfume, his eyes colder than the marble floors she once mopped for him. Victoria understands ambition. You never did. Sign this, Elena. Don't make a scene. Those were the words he left her with, as if loyalty were disposable, as if love were beneath his new suit. He walked away holding the hand of his billionaire boss, smiling for cameras, while the woman who built his dreams stood invisible in the background. He thought he was trading up. He thought he was marrying into power. But what Daniel never knew was that the empire he worshipped, Hale Enterprises, wasn't his boss's alone. It was Elena's $100 million inheritance, sealed in a trust her late father built long before Daniel could spell success. He mocked her silence, unaware it was a strategy. He mistook her humility for weakness, never realizing it was protection. And while he toasted to a future with his boss, the company's true owner was quietly preparing her return. Sometimes betrayal doesn't break a woman, it builds her. Sometimes the throne you steal already belongs to the one you left behind. This is not just a story of revenge, it's poetic justice. It's karma signing its own name on the dotted line. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you watch without subscribing, it's like letting Elena's strength fade into silence. But when you click that button, you stand with every woman who was betrayed, belittled, and still rose with grace. Please, subscribe now and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, so Elena knows she's not alone. The tension in the small apartment felt like a storm trapped inside four walls. Daniel slammed his laptop shut so hard the sound echoed. 3 years at Hale Enterprises, Elena. 3 years and still no promotion. His voice cracked between anger and exhaustion. Elena froze by the kitchen counter, holding a chipped mug of coffee. The audience feels her patience, the kind built from love, but stretched thin. Daniel, she said softly, you just need to give it time. You're smart, hard-working. He cut her off with a bitter laugh. Hard-working doesn't matter when your boss is a billionaire who only cares about power. Victoria Hale notices people who shine, not people who wait. His words sliced through the air. For a moment, all she could do was stare at the man who once promised her peace, now worshiping ambition like a god. I remember when all we wanted was this, she whispered, glancing around their little apartment. The thrifted furniture, the cracked tiles, the photo of them smiling at their wedding. We were happy, Daniel. You said success was having each other. He sighed and rubbed his quass. Forehead, guilt flickering. I just want more for us. Don't you get tired of struggling? Elena placed the mug down gently. Struggling doesn't scare me. Losing you does. The tension broke for a heartbeat silence, fragile and aching. Then Daniel's phone buzzed. A text lit up the screen. Dinner tomorrow, just us, V. He snatched the phone quickly, but not quickly enough. Elena noticed. V? She asked quietly. He didn't meet her eyes. Victoria. She wants to discuss my ideas for expansion. Her brows knit. Dinner or meeting? Both, he said sharply, ending the conversation with finality. She looked at him, really looked. The ambition, the pride, the hunger. This wasn't the same Daniel she married. Something had shifted. The audience can feel her heart sink, even as she hides it behind a calm smile. I hope she sees what I see in you, she said softly, because I'd hate to watch you lose yourself trying to be seen. Daniel didn't answer. He turned toward the window, the city lights reflecting in his eyes like promises too bright to trust. As she cleaned the table, something fell from the top shelf, a sealed cream-colored envelope, faintly dusted. She picked it up and froze. Her father's handwriting, for Elena, do not open until you're ready. Her breath caught. She hadn't touched it since the funeral. Inside that envelope was something her father told her would change everything, but she'd never believed it. She placed it carefully in a drawer, unaware it held the truth that would rewrite their lives. Behind her, Daniel adjusted his tie in the mirror. You'll see, Elena. Once Victoria promotes me, we'll finally live the life we deserve. She smiled faintly. I hope it's the life we both can recognize. The words hung heavy, layered with warning. That night, long after Daniel fell asleep, Elena stood by the window, staring at the reflection of the envelope's edge. sticking out of the drawer and whispered, "Whatever you're chasing, Daniel, I think it already belongs to me." The scene opens with bright flashes of camera light, a stark contrast from the dim apartment in scene one. Daniel steps out of a black company car, adjusting his tie as reporters shout his name. His heart races. This was the Hale Enterprises charity gala, the night that could change his life. And beside him stood Victoria Hale, billionaire, CEO, the woman every magazine called the Iron Visionary. Her beauty was sharp, not soft. Her smile never reached her eyes. Everything about her screamed power, the kind Daniel had always craved. "Stay close," Victoria said smoothly, slipping her arm through his. "Tonight, I want the board to see you as part of the team, not just another employee." He nodded, trying to appear calm, but inside he was trembling, excitement, fear, and something else. Temptation. Cameras flashed again as they entered the show. Ballroom. Chandeliers glittered, violins played, and Daniel could almost smell the success in the air. For the first time, he felt like he belonged. But what he didn't see, what the audience does, is Elena at home, watching the event live on her cracked phone screen, her dinner untouched, her hands shaking. Her husband was smiling beside another woman, their laughter echoing through her small apartment. The story slows, allowing the ache to settle. Elena traced Daniel's image on the screen with her fingertip. "You got what you wanted," she whispered. But her eyes glistened, love battling heartbreak. Back at the gala, Victoria raised a glass. "To loyalty and progress," she announced. The crowd cheered. When she leaned close to Daniel, her perfume lingered. "You have potential," she murmured. "But potential means nothing without risk." He swallowed. "What kind of risk?" Her gaze lingered on him, confident, predatory. The kind that separates the ambitious from the average. Their conversation paused when her assistant approached. "Miss Hale, the investors are ready for you." She turned to Daniel. "Dinner tomorrow, private. My driver will pick you up at 7. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Victoria smirked. "Don't call me ma'am. Call me Victoria." The audience feels the shift, the first crossing of the line, the moment innocence starts to rot. Later that night, Daniel returned home past midnight. The apartment was dark except for the soft glow of the kitchen light. Elena was asleep on the couch, holding his unopened dinner plate covered with foil. He stood there quietly, guilt flickering in his eyes, then fading just as quickly. "She'll understand," he whispered to himself. "She always does." But as he turned to walk away, his gaze caught the corner of the sealed envelope sticking out of the drawer, the one Elena had hidden. He frowned. "What's this?" He reached out, curiosity tugging at his fingers. But just then, Elena stirred and whispered his name in her sleep. He froze, slowly stepping back. "Nothing," he muttered, convincing himself it was unimportant. He didn't know that envelope would soon decide both their fates. The next morning, Elena found a lipstick stain on his collar. Not her color. The mark glowed like proof of a silent betrayal. She stared at it for a long moment, her heartbeat trembling in her ears. "So that's what ambition looks like now," she murmured. She folded his shirt neatly and whispered, "If he's dining with power, he'll soon choke on it." The sound of a slammed door ripped through the apartment like thunder. Daniel's voice followed, sharp, final, heartless. "I'm done, Elena. I can't live like this anymore." The intensity hits instantly. Papers scatter. A photo frame crashes to the floor, glass shattering between them. Elena freezes, her hands still holding the breakfast tray. She, made for him. "Done?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "What do you mean?" Daniel's jaw clenched. "I've tried, but this life isn't for me. Victoria believes in me. She sees what I'm capable of. You just hold me back." Her heart stuttered. "Hold you back? Daniel, I've supported you through every—" He cut her off, tossing a stack of documents onto the table. "Divorce papers. Sign them." The camera lingers on her face, disbelief, grief, confusion blending into silence. The audience feels every heartbeat of her pain. "Divorce?" she repeated, voice breaking. "After everything we've built? After all the nights I stayed awake waiting for you?" Daniel didn't look at her. He picked up his jacket, his tone cold. Victoria offered me a new position, a new life. She's... Elena's breath caught. She's what? Your boss? Or your new wife? He finally met her eyes. No guilt, no shame, just arrogance. Both. The world fell quiet. Even the ticking clock seemed cruel now. Elena dropped to her knees to gather the fallen photo frame, their wedding picture. Her reflection glimmered through the crack in the glass. You're leaving me. For her? Daniel sighed, as if bored. She's everything you're not, Elena. Powerful, confident, a woman who knows what she wants. Her tears hit the floor. And what did I do wrong? Loved you too much? He turned away, his voice low. You just didn't keep up. The storm breaks, then slowly, the scene softens. The camera closes on Elena's trembling hands as she traces his name on the divorce papers. The anger in her fades into numbness. She finally stands, fragile but steady. You think power makes you free? She said quietly. But when power owns you, you're just another slave. He paused by the door, smirking. You'll understand when you're alone. The door closed behind him, the sound, final, cruel, echoing through the braided emptiness he left. The camera pans across the apartment, silent chaos. Fallen papers, cold coffee, a faint lipstick mark on his discarded cup. Elena sank to the couch, her body trembling. But amid the heartbreak, her gaze caught something, the sealed envelope peeking from the drawer. Her father's handwriting, her father's name. She reached for it but stopped halfway. Not yet, she whispered, tears running down her cheeks. Not until I'm ready. The room filled with stillness, the quiet before her rise. Outside, the sound of an engine roared. Elena rushed to the window. Daniel was driving away. In the passenger seat sat Victoria Hale, wearing Elena's favorite necklace, the one Daniel had said he lost. Elena's breath froze. Her world shattered. He took everything, she whispered. But he doesn't know what I still have. Her eyes drifted back to the envelope, her voice barely audible. If the past built that company, then maybe the past can take it back. The thunder outside cracked like the sky itself had broken open. Elena jolted awake on the couch, her eyes swollen from crying. For a second, she forgot. Then she saw the divorce papers on the table. The signature line glared at her like a wound. Her chest tightened. He's really gone, she whispered. Lightning flashed, and her gaze caught the old envelope. Again, the one with her father's handwriting. For Elena, do not open until you're ready. The intensity rises instantly as she grabs it with trembling fingers. Well, Dad, she murmured, voice shaking. I think I'm ready now. She tore it open. Inside was a handwritten letter and a small silver key. Her father's voice seemed to come alive through the words, My dearest Elena, if you are reading this, I am gone. But my work, our legacy, still lives. Hale Enterprises was not built by one person. Victoria's late husband, Robert Hale, and I were partners. Together, we created the company from nothing. When he passed, his wife changed everything, erased my name, took control, and buried the truth. But I left something she could never touch: a trust fund, maturing on your 30th birthday, worth $100 million. With it comes full ownership of the company's founding shares. Hale Enterprises is rightfully yours. The words blurred through her tears. She clutched the paper, breathing hard. Mine? She whispered. Dad, what do you mean mine? She looked around her small, broken apartment, the peeling paint, the silent phone, the empty ring finger, and the contrast struck her like lightning. Her father's company, the same company Daniel had just left her for. The camera slows, the reflection scene begins. Elena sits at the edge of the couch, the letter trembling in her hands. Memories flood back. Her father working late, the way he always said. Never let greed build your heart, Elena. Build with kindness. It lasts longer. Now she finally understood. Her father didn't leave her powerless. He left her prepared. The storm outside softened into rain, tapping gently on the window like an omen. Elena rose and walked to the small desk in the corner, her father's old wooden desk. She inserted the silver key into the bottom drawer. A click. Inside were files, seals, and a black notebook labeled Turner Trust Holdings. Every page held proof. Contracts, share certificates, bank documents, her father's handwriting, her name on every line. She gasped, covering her mouth. The truth was undeniable. The empire Daniel had betrayed her for was built in her blood. Slowly, the sorrow in her eyes turned to fire. She whispered, "You left me for your boss, Daniel, but your boss works for me." The audience feels the shift pain transforming into resolve. She folded the letter neatly and tucked it against her chest. "You wanted power," she said softly, "and I was the power all along." Just then, a firm knock echoed on her door. She froze. Through the peephole stood Mr. Harris, her late father's lawyer, holding a briefcase and an umbrella. "Elena Turner?" he called gently. "It's time we talked about your inheritance." Elena's voice, quiet but certain. "Then maybe it's time the world remembers who really built Hale Enterprises." The music was loud, the laughter louder, the air heavy with perfume and arrogance. Elena stood frozen at the entrance of the glittering ballroom, clutching the invitation that had arrived 2 days ago with no sender's name. But the embossed gold letters said everything. Hale Enterprises Annual Gala, hosted by Victoria Hale and Daniel Reed. Her husband's name beside Victoria's. Her breath caught in her throat. The intensity starts at full flame. The cameras flashed, and people turned, whispering as she stepped in. The betrayal from scene 3 now had a face. Daniel, handsome, confident, smiling for the world with his arm proudly around Victoria Hale. Reporters shouted questions. "Daniel, is it true your engagement to Miss Hale is official?" He smiled, pretending humility. "We're focused on business right now. Everything else will fall into place." Elena's hands shook around her clutch. She wanted to scream, to run, to disappear. But instead, she took a steady breath and stepped farther inside. Her eyes burned, but her spine straightened. She didn't come to beg. She came to see the people who had destroyed her life. Victoria noticed her first. "Well," she said, her voice slicing through the chatter, "I wasn't expecting company from the past." Daniel turned the blood drain from his face. "Elena?" The audience feels the crack in his composure. For the first time, he looks small. "Don't stop on my account," Elena said softly, her voice calm but cutting. "I just came to congratulate the happy couple." A few guests gasped. Some pretended to sip their drinks. Victoria smiled, the kind of smile that hides poison. "You always had such grace, Elena. It's a shame it didn't help your marriage." The laughter that followed was cruel. A waiter passed by, offering champagne. Elena took a glass, though her hands trembled. Her eyes lifted to the giant banner behind the stage. Hale Enterprises, building tomorrow, and beneath it, faintly visible under the spotlight, the faded shadow of a painted-over logo. Turner and Hale. She froze. Her father's name. He hadn't been erased completely, just hidden. The camera slows, reflection takes over. Elena touched the rim of her glass, a memory flashing of her father's voice. "Truth doesn't vanish when painted over, Elena. It just waits for light." Tears gathered, but she blinked them away. When she looked at Daniel again, her grief had turned to quiet fury. "You always said Victoria understood ambition," she said. "I hope she understands loyalty too. You'll need it where you're going." Victoria's smile faltered. "Excuse me?" Elena placed her untouched drink on the table and turned to leave. "Enjoy your empire while you can." The crowd's murmurs followed her out, judgmental, curious, confused. Outside, the night was cool. She took off her heels, walking barefoot toward the car, lights glimmering across the street. Her phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. "Mr. Harris, we need to meet. Victoria is planning a merger that could erase your father's name forever." Elena stared at the screen, the reflection of the ballroom still glowing in her eyes. She whispered, "Then it's time to stop hiding." Her hand gripped the envelope with her inheritance documents, wind whipping her hair as she looked back at the building that once carried her father's dream. "You took my husband, Victoria," she said under her breath. "But I'm coming for what you took from my bloodline." Rain lashed against the windows as thunder rolled through the night, mirroring the storm inside Elena's chest. She sat in the small cafe near the old Turner Street office, her fingers wrapped around a lukewarm cup of coffee she hadn't touched. The door suddenly swung open with a gust of wind and rain, and a tall man stepped in, shaking off his umbrella. "Mrs. Reed?" His deep voice carried authority and calm. "Or should I say, Miss Turner?" Elena looked up sharply. The man was in his 50s, his silver hair combed back neatly, his suit pressed. His eyes were kind but alert, the kind that missed nothing. "I'm Mr. Harris," he continued, placing a briefcase on the table. "Your father's attorney. I handled the Turner Trust before he passed." Intensity floods the moment. This is the man who holds answers. Elena blinked, heart pounding. You sent me that message?" "Yes." He slid into the seat opposite her, his tone firm. "And it's urgent. Victoria Hale has set a board vote for next week. She plans to merge Hale Enterprises with a foreign firm, stripping the Turner name from all records. If that happens, your inheritance rights could be challenged." Elena froze, her throat dry. "She's trying to erase him completely?" Mr. Harris nodded. "And by extension, you. Once the merger is finalized, her control becomes absolute." The intensity eases into reflection. The camera lingers on Elena's face, shock melting into focus. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of rain outside. "My father trusted her husband," Elena said quietly. "They built that company together. Why would she destroy everything they stood for?" "Power," Mr. Harris said simply. "And greed. She's turned Hale Enterprises into her personal empire." Elena looked down, voice breaking. "And Daniel, he's helping her do it." Mr. Harris's eyes softened. "I know, but maybe. His betrayal is what will help you take it back." He opened the briefcase and slid a folder toward her. Inside were legal documents, ownership certificates, the trust activation notice, and a single photo of her father and Robert Hale shaking hands in front of the original building. "This is your shield," he said. "But patience, Elena. Don't confront them yet. Let them believe you're gone powerless. People destroy themselves when they think no one is watching." Her fingers brushed the photograph. The weight of it grounded her. The quiet scene becomes emotional, her grief transforming into resolve. "I won't let her bury his name," she said, her tone steady. "If she wants a merger, she'll have to sign it on my paper." Mr. Harris smiled faintly. "Then let's prepare. You only get one chance to strike." As he stood to leave, a figure appeared outside the rain-streaked window. Daniel. He was on his phone, laughing beside Victoria's driver. Elena's breath caught. He looked so confident, so untouchable, unaware that his entire world was about to flip. "He thinks he's the star of her empire," she whispered, eyes burning with quiet fire. "But the script was written by my father." Mr. Harris turned back, adjusting his glasses. "When the trust activates, the board will answer to you, Miss Turner. Just make sure you're ready. Power reveals who we truly are." The pounding of construction hammers filled the morning air as Elena stepped out of the bus. Her once elegant shoes splashed in a puddle, the hem of her coat damp. But her expression was steady, a woman stripped of comfort, but not of will. Intensity hits immediately. The camera follows her through a bustling community center under renovation, her new workplace. Volunteers rushed around with paint cans and ladders. This was the Turner Foundation for Hope, the very charity her father once funded quietly. "Excuse me," a cheerful voice called out. "You're the new volunteer?" Elena turned to see Grace, a woman in her late 20s with bright eyes and a warmth that filled the room. Grace was the program coordinator, balancing 2 phones and a clipboard. She wore an old hoodie and a smile that refused to fade. "Yes," Elena replied, setting her bag down. "Elena Turner." She hesitated, then quickly added, "Just Elena." Grace didn't notice the pause. "Welcome, Elena. We can always use more hands. Today's about rebuilding, literally." The irony wasn't lost on her. Rebuilding. That was exactly what she was doing. The scene slows down as reflection takes hold. As they painted walls together, Elena watched children run through the hallways, laughing. The noise was messy, human, real, so different from the sterile halls of Hale Enterprises. Grace chatted easily. "You look like someone who used to work in an office." Elena smiled faintly. "Something like that." Grace nodded. "Well, this place isn't much, but it's honest. When life breaks you, helping others fixes parts you didn't know were cracked." The words hit Elena deep. She looked around the room, the peeling walls, the broken chairs, and saw pieces of herself in them. Everything here had been abandoned once, but with care, it was being rebuilt. The camera lingers on her hands covered in white paint hands that once signed checks, now holding brushes. Later that day, while cleaning up, Elena's phone buzzed. A message from Mr. Harris. Phase 1 complete. The trust documents are secure. Start moving the minor shares quietly. She exhaled slowly. Quietly. That was her father's way too. Grace noticed her distant gaze. You okay? Elena nodded. Yes. Just remembering something my father said. What was it? He told me that true power doesn't shout, it whispers. Grace smiled. Then I'd say you're learning to whisper pretty loud. They both laughed softly, the first real laughter Elena had felt in weeks. Evening settled, painting the streets gold. As she stepped outside, she saw a delivery truck parked by the curb. A banner on its side read, Hale Enterprises, Community Partnership Supplies. Her smile vanished. So even this humble foundation was being fed by the company that had stolen her father's name. She walked closer, her reflection merging with the logo on the truck door, Hale Enterprises, and whispered, You took everything, Victoria. Now I'll take it back piece by piece. Behind her, Grace called out, Elena, you're bleeding, you cut your palm. Elena looked down. A thin line of red ran across her hand, dripping onto a white paintbrush. The image was symbolic purity, touched by blood. She smiled faintly through the sting. Don't worry, sometimes to rebuild something right, you have to bleed a little first. The sound of breaking glass echoed through. Victoria Hale's penthouse office. Are you out of your mind? She screamed, slamming a crystal decanter against the bar. Daniel flinched, his perfect suit no shield against her fury. Intensity from the very first breath. Victoria, please let me explain, he stammered, hands raised. It was one dinner. The board members were asking questions about the merger. They don't care about your ideas, she snapped. They care about numbers and names, and mine is the only one that matters here. Her tone was sharp enough to cut through his pride. He tried to steady his voice. I've worked every night for this merger. I deserve a seat at that table. Victoria's laughter was cruel, echoing against the marble floor. You deserve what I give you, Daniel. Don't confuse access with ownership. The audience feels his humiliation sink deep. His face hardened. I thought we were partners. You thought wrong, she said, leaning close. You're convenient, good-looking, loyal for now. But business isn't built on love stories. The moment froze, the power dynamic laid bare. Daniel's jaw tightened. Maybe not love, Victoria, but I know ambition when I see it. She smiled thinly. Then you know yours just ran out. Her assistant entered quietly, placing a document on her desk. The board meeting is confirmed, ma'am. The merger signing will be next week. Perfect, Victoria said, dismissing Daniel with a flick of her hand. You can go now. Try not to embarrass yourself in front of real decision makers. He stood there, stunned, reduced from lover to liability in seconds. The camera slows, easing into reflection. As he left the room, his steps echoed down the hall, every one heavier than the last. Outside, he stared at his reflection in the elevator's golden doors. The man staring back wasn't the dreamer Elena once loved. He was hollow. Meanwhile, across town, Elena sat at her desk at the Turner Foundation, reading a message from Mr. Harris. Phase 2 activated. Trust matured. You now hold 52% controlling interest in Hale Enterprises. Her breath caught. She placed a trembling hand over her chest. 52%. It wasn't just wealth, it was authority. Power wrapped in justice. She whispered, Father, I hope you're watching. The reflection deepens. The camera pans across the modest room, her old wedding photo, now turned face down. The Hale logo file open on her screen, and beside it, a legal notice with her name in bold. Elena Turner, primary beneficiary, Turner Trust Holdings. Her eyes burned, not from tears but from purpose. She picked up her phone and dialed Mr. Harris. It's time, she said softly. I want every document ready for the board meeting. Let them think they own it until the very last second. He replied, Understood. I'll handle the legal preparation. As she hung up, her computer pinged with a news. Alert! Hale Enterprises announces official engagement of CEO Victoria Hale and Senior Executive Daniel Reed. Elena stared at the photo, Daniel kneeling, ring in hand. Victoria's hand extended and whispered, Sign whatever you want, Daniel. Just remember the paper you're signing belongs to me. She folded the article and placed it beside her father's letter. Next week, they'll celebrate their merger, and I'll attend as their silent majority. The boardroom doors flew open with a bang that silenced the room. Cameras flashed, pens paused midair, and all eyes turned toward the entrance. There stood Elena Turner, elegant, calm, but radiating power that couldn't be ignored. Intensity hits immediately. The audience feels the shift. Daniel froze mid-sentence. Victoria Hale, seated at the head of the table, frowned. "Who let her in?" she demanded, her tone sharp enough to slice through the silence. Elena stepped forward, her heels clicking with steady rhythm. "I believe I did," she said softly, placing a brown envelope on the long mahogany table. "After all, it's my meeting too." A ripple of confusion spread among the board members. One whispered, "Who is she?" Another murmured, "Wasn't she Daniel's ex-wife?" Victoria smirked. "Oh, this is adorable. You're interrupting a corporate merger, Mrs. Reed. We're a little busy." Elena's eyes didn't waver. "Then you'll want to read what's inside that envelope before you sign anything." The camera zooms on Victoria's manicured fingers as she opens the envelope. Inside, official documents, seals, signatures. Her smile falters for the first time. This can't be right," Victoria stammered. "These are Turner Trust documents," Elena nodded calmly. "Yes, my father's trust, the same one that built Hale Enterprises with your late husband before you scrubbed his name from the walls." Gasps filled the room. Daniel's face turned pale. "I inherited his shares," Elena continued, her voice firm but even. "And as of last week, the trust matured. I now own 52% of Hale Enterprises. This company belongs to me." The tension cracked like lightning. The audience feels the shock ripple through every corner of the room. Daniel pushed back his chair. "Elena, you can't just—" She turned to him, her gaze steady. "I can, Daniel. And I have. You left me for this empire, unaware it was already mine." Victoria tried to recover, but her voice shook. "You think you can just walk in here and—" Elena raised her hand. "I'm not here for revenge, Victoria. I'm here for restoration. My father's name will return to the company's legacy. The merger is canceled." The board erupted into whispers. The old members who remembered the Turner name nodded silently. The reflection moment begins. The camera lingers on Elena's face, calm, resolute, carrying the strength of her father's legacy and the pain of every betrayal she endured. She picked up a pen and signed the document in front of her. "Effective immediately, I'm assuming full control of Hale Enterprises." Victoria stood shaking. "You can't do this. I built this empire." Elena looked at her, eyes glinting. "No, Victoria, you borrowed it. And now, I'm collecting the debt." A security guard stepped into the doorway, whispering something to Victoria. Her expression went pale as she turned back to Elena. "You have no idea what you've just done," she hissed. Elena tilted her head. "Then enlighten me." Victoria's lips curled into a cold smile. "You think this company is your victory? Wait until you see what I've been hiding." Elena's calm cracked slightly. "What are you talking about?" Victoria leaned forward, her voice low. "Check the financials, dear. Not every empire is built on clean money." Elena's voice was quiet, but her eyes blazed. "If you've buried something, Victoria, I'll find it. And when I do, you won't just lose your power, you'll lose your name." The world around Elena blurred Victoria's words, echoing in her mind. Not every empire is built on clean money. Her breath caught as she stumbled into her office, slamming the door behind her. The storm outside roared, lightning flashing across the glass walls, and then everything went silent. Intensity strikes from the start, emotion, memory, fear colliding. Elena sank into the leather chair, clutching the old photograph of her father she'd kept in her drawer. For a heartbeat, she could almost hear his voice again. And then the flashback began. She was 17, sitting beside his hospital bed. The machines beeped softly. Her father, Richard Turner, frail but sharp-eyed, took her hand. "Elena," he said weakly, "money builds walls, but values build empires. Don't let them turn our name into greed." Tears blurred her sight. "Dad, you'll get better." He shook his head gently. "Listen to me. The Hales, they were once family, but power changed them. Someday you'll have to remind the world who built this company. He pressed a worn gold ring into her palm engraved with T and H. When greed becomes their god, truth will be your weapon. The reflection softens the tempo. Present-day Elena traced that same ring now, realizing he'd prepared her for this moment. Her voice trembled but carried resolve. I'll remind them, Father. I'll finish what you started. Lightning cracked again, snapping her back to reality. Her computer pinged. A message from Mr. Harris glowed on the screen. We founded an offshore account under Victoria's name, funded with company money. Elena's eyes widened. She's been stealing from her own empire. And now, she whispered, it's time the world sees what kind of queen she really is. The conference hall erupted into chaos. Reporters shouted questions, flashes burst like lightning, and security guards swarmed the stage. At the center of it all stood Elena Turner, calm amid the storm, holding a folder that contained the final truth. Intensity strikes instantly, the world is watching. Victoria Hale's perfect smile had shattered. This is ridiculous, she screamed, slamming her palm on the podium. You forged those documents. You think you can steal my empire? Elena didn't flinch. She nodded to Mr. Harris, who stepped forward and connected a laptop to the projector. Numbers filled the screen: account transfers, offshore records, falsified invoices, all linked to Victoria's name. Each transaction, Mr. Harris said evenly, was siphoned from Hale Enterprises' charity fund. Millions redirected to a private island account. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Victoria's voice cracked. That's a lie. Then another voice cut through the noise, the Auditor General, stepping out from the side. We verified the documents independently. Mrs. Hale, you're under investigation for corporate fraud, embezzlement, and tax evasion. Two security officers approached. Victoria's eyes darted wildly around the room, searching for help, but even her allies stepped back. Daniel stood frozen near the front row, sweat beading on his forehead. When Victoria was handcuffed and led away, he turned toward Elena. His tone softened, desperate. Elena, I made mistakes, but we can fix this together. I didn't know she was stealing. I thought. Elena's gaze was steady, her voice low but sharp. You left love for money, Daniel. Now you have neither. The camera lingers on his face, guilt, shame, and panic colliding as reporters turn their lenses on him next. Mr. Harris approached quietly. Miss Turner, we just received confirmation. The joint account Daniel used for personal spending was funded through Victoria's fraud network. That makes him complicit. Daniel's eyes widened. What? No, I didn't. Before he could finish, two officers stepped forward. Daniel Reed, you're under arrest for financial collusion and aiding corporate fraud. He tried to reach for Elena, but she stepped back. Don't, she said softly. The moment you walked out on me, you made your choice. The reflection slows the storm outside, mirrors the turmoil inside the hall. Elena turned toward the cameras, her father's words echoing in her mind. Money builds walls, but values build empires. She spoke to the press, voice calm and firm. This company will return to its roots: integrity, service, and honesty. My father built it with love, not greed. That's how it will stand again. Reporters lowered their cameras in respect. For the first time, silence felt like applause. As Daniel was led out in handcuffs, he turned back, his voice breaking. Elena, please, tell them. I'm not the monster. She met his eyes, tears glistening. You weren't, until you chose to be. The officers pulled him away. The sound of flashbulbs filled the air, a funeral march for pride. Mr. Harris approached quietly. Justice has spoken today, but power never sleeps. Someone else will come for that throne. Elena looked toward the horizon beyond the glass windows, the storm clearing into morning light. Then I'll be ready, she whispered. The broadcast lights blazed across the stage, illuminating 1,000 faces: journalists, shareholders, employees, and the entire nation watching live. At the center stood Elena Turner, framed by the same company logo that once erased her father's name. Now, it read proudly, Turner, Hale Enterprises. The intensity is instant, a public trial of truth and redemption. She gripped the podium, heart pounding but steady. When my father built this company, she began, he said honesty was its foundation. Somewhere along the way, Greed cracked that foundation. But today, we rebuild. The audience listened in silence. Behind her, massive screens displayed the evidence. Victoria's offshore accounts, Daniel's confessions, and the reinstated Turner legacy. A reporter stood. "Miss Turner, what do you say to those who claim this was revenge?" Elena's lips curved into a sad smile. "Revenge destroys. Justice restores." This wasn't about payback, it was about bringing truth home. Applause swelled cautious at first, then thunderous. Employees who once whispered now stood, clapping with pride. Even board members lowered their heads in quiet respect. The reflection slows the scene. The camera moves closer. Elena's eyes glisten under the lights. She remembered her father's frail voice. "One day, you'll have to remind them who built this." She had done exactly that. But instead of triumph, her expression softened with peace. "To every woman who's ever she's been told she's nothing without a man, look at me. You are enough." Tears fell freely across the hall. The once broken wife now stood as the face of strength and integrity. Mr. Harris, watching from the front row, nodded proudly. Grace, her friend from the foundation, smiled through tears. Elena looked into the cameras one last time. "This company will stand for families, fairness, and second chances. That's the Turner way." The crowd rose in ovation. But then the lights flickered. A security guard hurried to the stage, whispering urgently into Mr. Harris's ear. His face turned grave. He leaned toward Elena, voice low. "There's something you need to see. It's about Victoria. She's escaped custody." The applause died instantly. Elena's hand froze on the podium. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "She's not finished. When corruption loses power..." "Mr. Harris murmured. "It doesn't vanish, it fights to return." Rain poured outside, in the courthouse like a curtain over the past. Reporters crowded the marble steps, flashes cutting through the gray sky. And then Daniel Reed appeared, hands trembling, clothes wrinkled, eyes hollow. He pushed through the cameras until he reached her. Intensity strikes first the fall of a man who once stood tall. "Elena," his voice cracked. "Please, I'll start over. I'll fix everything. Just give me another chance." He sank to his knees right there on the courthouse steps, the same place he had once served her divorce papers. "Please, Elena," he whispered again, tears mixing with rain. "I lost everything, the company, my name, my life. I have nothing without you." The cameras clicked, the flashes endless. Elena stood still, heart pounding, but face calm. For a long moment, silence swallowed everything. Then she stepped closer, her voice quiet but sharp enough to break him. "You started over the day you left, Daniel. So did I." Her words landed like truth itself. Final, clear, unshakable. Reflection fills the space. The camera lingers on her face, not bitter, just free. She remembered every night she cried, every betrayal she endured, every ounce of strength it took to stand again. "Go live with what you chose," she said softly. "Because forgiveness isn't an invitation, it's closure." She turned, walking past him as the crowd parted. Daniel's sobs echoed against the courthouse steps, his humiliation immortalized by flashing cameras. Elena didn't look back. Her umbrella opened black against the storm, and she disappeared into the car waiting at the curb. "Mr. Harris's voice came softly through her phone. "Victoria's been spotted near the old Turner factory." Elena's eyes hardened. Then it ends where it all began. The hammering sound echoed through the air, this time not from destruction, but from renewal. Workers carefully lifted the golden letters into place above the company entrance. The camera pans up to reveal the final word gleaming in sunlight. Turner Enterprises. Intensity strikes right away, the symbol of restoration, not revenge. Inside, employees filled the lobby, whispering with hope as Elena walked through the glass doors. Her presence was calm, centered, no longer the broken wife, but the rightful leader. She stopped by Grace's desk, the same woman who had once given her a chance at the foundation. "Grace," Elena said warmly, "your dedication has never gone unnoticed. I want you to take over as staff manager." Grace's eyes widened. "Elena, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll lead with heart," Elena replied with a smile. "That's what this company needs now." Applause broke out. The tension from past scenes melted into warmth and quiet pride. Mr. Harris entered, holding a file. All employee benefits reinstated. Every cut Victoria made reversed. Elena nodded. Good, this place should never profit by taking from those who build it. Reflection softens the pace. Later, she stood in the cemetery, a single white rose in her hand. The stone before her read, Richard Turner, a builder of dreams. She knelt, placing the rose beside it. You were right, Father, she whispered. Kindness isn't weakness. It's the foundation of strength. The wind rustled gently, carrying her words across the quiet field. Her phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. Meet me at the old factory. Alone. Elena's breath hitched. Peace never comes easy, she murmured. Sometimes, the past asks for one last conversation. The city skylines shimmered under a golden sunset, the glass towers reflecting the warmth of a new beginning. From the top-floor balcony of Turner Enterprises, Elena stood in quiet stillness, the wind brushing through her hair. Below her, life moved buses, laughter, new beginnings, proof that even after storms, the world keeps turning. Intensity begins softly, peace that feels earned, not given. Mr. Harris stepped out, holding a cup of tea. The quarterly report looks strong, he said with a rare smile. The company's never been healthier. Elena nodded, eyes still on the horizon. Not because of profits, she murmured. Because of peace. He studied her for a long moment. Would you ever forgive him? She turned, the light catching her face, calm, mature, healed. Forgiveness isn't for him, she said quietly. It's for me. But trust? She smiled faintly. That must be earned. The reflection deepens the tone, gentle, emotional. Mr. Harris gave a small nod, setting the cup down beside her. Your father would be proud. I hope so, she said softly. I finally understand what he meant, that real power isn't in ownership. It's in what you build for others. Just then, a soft knock interrupted the moment. Grace entered, her expression curious. A courier just arrived with this. She handed Elena a sealed envelope marked, Anonymous donation, $10 million to the Turner Foundation. Elena's breath caught. She opened it, scanning the letter, simple, unsigned, heartfelt. For the lives I failed, and the woman who taught me what integrity means. Her eyes lifted toward the skyline, again thoughtful, unreadable. Grace whispered, Do you think it's from him? Elena smiled faintly. Maybe. Or maybe it's just karma remembering its way home. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, she whispered, Some debts aren't paid in money. They're paid in growth.